Hello and welcome to the second series of the SubscriptionX podcast in association with Chargebee. Yet again, we are back live at the Spring Retail Festival to record this very special limited edition podcast series. I'm Katie Searles, Managing Editor of InternetRetailing, and I'll be joined by experts from both the retail and subscription economy for a look at everything from getting the price right to the importance of advanced technology and limiting churn. For the second season running, this podcast is brought to you in association with Chargebee, and I'm delighted to introduce my co-host Shakti. Would you like to tell us a little bit about, firstly, yourself and then about Chargebee as a company?
Thanks, Katie. I've been with Chargebee for over 7 years now, and my team and I run more than 5,000 conversations every year in my capacity as VP of Consulting. And we cover customers across segments and business models such as B2B, B2C, retail, SaaS, AI, media, and more. Chargebee is a revenue growth management platform that started with streamlining and automating billing over 13 years ago. In the last few years, we've made a ton of strategic investments with the intention of moving from a back office billing financial solution to a robust front office monetization platform that accelerates customer acquisition, allows market and price experimentation, and powers churn deflection.
Perfect, thank you very much. Now, as a proud owner of a 10-year-old Border Terrier, our next guest is very exciting for me, and I'm imagining for listeners as a whole. We've got Mark Scott, co-founder of Bella and Duke. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your subscription business.
Okay, thanks for having me on. So Bella and Duke, it came from a bit of a sad story. Had two border collies, both got cancer under the age of 10. And I thought, this is incredibly wrong. A friend of mine also had dogs, and his dogs got cancer under 10. I'm like, this is crazy. How can dogs get cancer so young? And at that time, I was looking at my own health and well-being because I was not doing too great. And I realized I was eating processed food and all this kind of stuff. So I just started clearing up my own diet, and suddenly I felt great. You know, when you wake up in the morning, you haven't got the headache, and suddenly you've got energy, and you're not up and down, and emotions. And, why am I crying in the middle of the afternoon? And then I went, well, if I'm feeling better on good food, what are my dogs eating? And so I looked at the ingredients, and I went, oh, no wonder. And I got them off the dry dog food ASAP, and I looked for the most species-appropriate food for cats and dogs. And raw was the thing, the 99% of 99.99999 of this species on planet Earth, and there's 8.7 million of them. They all eat raw. It's only us. No, well, not just us three, but they're out there as well. It's humans and the domesticated animals that eat processed food, and which are the ones with the chronic diseases. So, I know a scientist, no vet, but I kind of figured that out. So when we moved them on the raw, I saw them change. I saw how fast they changed. Started finding communities when they were talking about this. And I'm like, wow, I've got to do something about that. And that's when we started Bella and Duke. And the name comes from, because we wanted to change the pet food industry, because it's so wrong that so many animals are eating processed food, that we wanted to create a business that was going to get as many cats and dogs off processed food. And that was the start of Bella and Duke.
Thank you very much. I'm so glad we went from a sad start to something slightly happier. Starting a episode on death is always heartbreaking, especially as a dog owner, but it does really make you think. And your session that you've come off today was titled From Zero to 50 Million and Profitability. You obviously had to learn lots about the raw food and the benefits of that for our pets, but when building a business from scratch, what were the big lessons?
Well, it's interesting because actually my topic, we talk about death, was also on the death curve. Because no one talks about the death curve. No one talks about it. They all talk about CAC, LTV and stuff like that. Yet people stumble into the death curve without realizing it. But I'll come back to that. So what was the question again?
How did you start? What was the kick-off point? Not from the raw food, but the actual subscription side of the business.
So interestingly, we'll start here. We didn't want to be a tech company to begin with, because we wanted to focus on marketing and prove the concept. So we looked for off the shelf, is what we did. So we took technology as much as we could, and we went and proved that there was a market out there. And I advise anybody to do that as soon as possible, because if you tech, it's a long, as you know, it's a long journey, and it's very costly. So we started to look for software to build. It didn't quite fit because, unfortunately, cats and dogs come in all different sizes and they get orders. So it was never like a 30-day cycle. It was this, that, and all the typical we're talking 10 years ago, subscription models were just based on 30 days or monthly. So very early on, we discovered we'd have to build our own thing from scratch. And that takes a lot of money and effort to do that. It's different today because there's so much great products out there and software and platforms that do a lot. So that was one of our learnings at the start, was understanding what technology we would have to implement in order to achieve our goals. But the goal early on was we wanted to be customer-centric, and that was really, really important. You know, there's 3 types of businesses. You've got customer-centric, product leaders, or people who like to sweat the assets, you know, like a Ryanair or something like that, try and get as many bums on seats stuff. We said we want to be customer-centric, so that meant it was all about the customer. Yes, in your production line, you had to have it run as smoothly as fast as possible, but not at the cost of poor customer service. So that's the trade-off. If you start making decisions early on, like if your focus is on customer, what does the customer want? And I remember at the boardroom after hearing about Amazon, Jeff Bezos, you know, we literally bought a big dog, not a real one, a pretended one, and a cat, and we stuck them at the end of the board table to remind us who the actual customer was. So any decisions that we made was based on that customer. So again, another thing that we were very clear about was the size we wanted to get, which meant that we didn't have to worry about profitability in year 1 to year 3. It was all about growth. So that having that flexibility just to grow the market and then hit profitability made a big difference. Most people try and make money from day one, and that's in growing a subscription business. It's not going to happen. You have to invest. You have to build your brand, and I don't think people appreciate more so in the UK how much it costs to do that. Never mind technology on the rest of it.
But Shakti, is that a key point about finding the right tech partner to allow you to have the flexibility and agility in your business so you can focus on the marketing and the final customer?
Absolutely. I was going to say, I love that you mentioned that, Mark, because your focus as a business owner needs to be on building the business that you want to, you know, like you said, keep the customer in front of mind, build for the customer, don't focus on profitability. That's exactly what we say. What we do like to say is leave the billing and the boring part to us, because we've built a business on that, right? So we have invested on all of the initiatives that go around with monetization, with acquisitions, with retention, and there are a ton of tools out there that you can actually leverage, and we all work with each other to actually enable businesses to be successful at the core of what you do.
It's so important, and I think that focus on growing the business, it's enough of a headache. It is, like you say, rather than is the invoice come in, has that been paid, you know, are the automatic emails going out because it hasn't been paid, and the chase emails, and they're small things, but they are big things, and if you can customize it. And I think what I've realized today, starting the new business that I've started, is actually what would cost me about £500,000, you know, 10 years ago to build, you can get for pretty much next to nothing in comparison. That's the beauty of it today. And I think when I see providers like yourself, what the beauty of that is you've got so many different industries using it, not just one, that you could probably cross-reference and go, we see it work really well in here. And I think that's where the real value comes in, not just the technology, but the experience.
Yeah. I think the best practices, and I think the other thing that a lot of smaller business owners don't realize is, as they scale, the complexity of the business model itself, but also all of the surrounding requirements on compliance, on
GDP,
auditability.
Yes. Wonderful. I love it.
Yeah, so
I love it.
leave that. I mean, it's not the most straightforward, and there are so many country-specific requirements around taxation, around GDPR, around compliance that you need to keep in mind as you grow as well. So, and
security. I don't want to be waking up at 2:00 in the morning and know the servers are gone now. You know, I've all lost all this or that. I mean, there's so many things that, you know, if you can just focus on your mission, your passion, and allow it as much as possible other people to take care of that, I'm all for it. Now, there might come a point where You have to, and that's just business. But at least you can prove your model. You can get to a certain size, and I think also if you're getting to a certain size with a company like yourselves, you can also say, I need this functionality, I need this, can you work with this on this and that? But we made the decision early on we weren't going to be a tech company. But 2 years in, we had to become, because back then we just didn't. No one could provide us what we needed. But I think that's a little bit different today.
Absolutely, we should talk.
This is what this podcast is about, bringing people together. We have that key term, acquisition and retention. You mentioned it in the middle of your response there, Shakti. For a business like Bella and Duke, especially when you were growing and you were starting out, how did you balance the sort of acquisition over building customer lifetime value and keeping those customers coming back pet after pet?
Yeah, well, no, it's an interesting question, and this is what I covered in the death curve, was the fact that people they only focus on LTV or CAC, but what about the actual spreading the word? We call it an R number. Like, you remember COVID in times, if COVID was less than 1, we were doing all right. COVID was going away. If COVID was more than 1, it was spreading, and it was spreading fast. You want a referral number greater than 1 as a business, but we don't track that. People don't talk about that. And once you understand referrals, not the referrals, here's a coupon code, give a mate. I mean, they're useful. The referral when you're in the pub, when you're in the park, you're meeting somebody else, and for some strange reason you talk about dog food, which they do, and dog jobbies. They just seems to be part of the conversation. Everyone talks about it. But the point being is if you can offer a service or product that people love, and you can get your R number greater than 1, you'll avoid the death curve. It doesn't matter how good your churn or how small your churn is or how low your CAC is. If you don't get your R number up, you're going to hit the death curve at some point. It might just be further up. But that's the referral is so important to do that. And I think that's delivering, making it easy, having the systems in place to do that.
With a 4-year-old dog, I must say, I did go through a journey of figuring out the best food for my dog as well. And through word of mouth, like you said, I didn't know about Bella and Duke, but I did go with a similar product. But it was absolutely word of mouth. And now I go and tell all of my friends, hey, this is what's working for me and Nutties, my dog, and this is what you should try out as well. Yeah.
And we also focus on box 6 in our business. So you're not really a customer until you get box 6. Everything else is just noise. Because then it gets everyone focused on the longevity of it. So giving a 75% discount on box 1, sure, your CAC's going to be low, but you're only going to have 3 customers after 3 months or something. So it's really focusing on offers or products that's going to get them into the habit, and then also spending a bit of money. We call it a CRC, like a customer retention cost, which is do marketing and advertising of customer stories, not just for new customers, but to re-establish and reinforce your messaging to your existing customers that the product's so good. Because often we forget. I mean, have you had supplements before? Day 1, you don't notice anything, do you? Day 5, might take 6 months before you notice that supplement really working. You've got to give it that much time to do it. And anything that encourages people to stay and get. So for us, it's like box 6 is before you're a real customer. 86% after that, we don't lose.
That's incredible. That's incredible stats. And the supplement point's interesting. Our little dog is on now supplements because he is 10, and it does help. But that point about being in the park or wherever you're walking and just telling every dog owner you meet, we put him on this supplement, and we did see an instant change from day 1 to day 2. He went out on his evening walks and trotted down the road quite happy. And that word of mouth is something you just can't beat. You can't replicate it with all the content strategies that you would put in place. And for a business where there's such an emotional connection, like our dogs, our cats, if you're a cat person, they are our little world, and we want to do best by them. Do you find that as a help in achieving that 86% because there's an emotional attachment, or is it actually is there a slight challenge around? It's different,
and it's different countries. So people in the UK don't want to pay for their own health. It's because we don't pay for our own health. We do through our pay slip. we just don't like to admit it. So it's interesting when people actually see the value of food and the value of proper care. It does make a big difference for sure. And I think that emotional part comes with it. And I think the stick-activity, though, is believing you're doing something right. And people will spend more money on them, on their pets, than they will on themselves. Like, you think the average vet bill.
Well, they get a health check every year. Like, how many humans, unless you've got really good cover through your payslip, get this little health check to make sure everything's okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're not used to doing it. We used to be panded for, and just show up, the NHS is going to take care of it. I think it's changing, because I think the NHS is falling over. And that was part of my bigger plan was, look, if you look at your pets, and I mean, like, we've got some crazy stats, like 100% of dogs that had diabetes, it went away on the survey they went. Not 100%. I mean, you can't beat those stats.
And that's stats that you must be able to put out there in your marketing when you're trying to acquire new customers.
Yeah, absolutely. You can do, yes. You just got to be careful on the wording, because we like to protect the things, because it's, what am I going to say? It's very difficult to make money off healthy people and healthy pets.
Especially now that the pets are living into a good old age.
That's right, yeah.
How did you think about your supply chain as well? Because again, given pet food and given how critical it is to get your deliveries, your boxes out on time every month, every X days, is that something that you modeled early on? Is that something that's evolved?
I mean, again, we kept it simple at the start. We just had one box, 28 days, but over time, you can have any type size box. You can have it on any delivery days. It's an absolute pain in the butt, especially if you're not delivering 7 days, because sometimes you've got to move orders forwards, backwards, and there's all these logisticals. But we've been doing it for 8 years now. We kind of got there. But it wasn't straight. It wasn't as easy. And again, there were certain things we could have been, we could have made it more efficient, but it would have been at the cost of customer experience. Because if someone wants to add something last minute and then it's already on the DPD box or whatever van, how do you do that? So we just had to make sure that we delivered for a customer first and then optimize the supply chain second. But yeah, that whole supply chain, I don't know, we've got in our department quite a lot. So yes, if you can get on top of that at the start, for sure. If you've got back-end software that talks to other suppliers and all that kind of thing, you're just eliminating mistakes. There's always mistakes when there's cut and paste, isn't there? Cut and paste is the biggest problem for any business. So if you can eliminate those sort of things, you free up time and you free up mistakes. And to be fair, if the algorithms are done correctly, they can optimize it and see things bigger picture that often humans miss.
And have you relied on automation and your back-end software to take some of the sort of manually laborious tasks so you can concentrate on getting the word out there or researching more types of raw food? Are you harnessing advanced technology, or?
I think probably the bit that we are focused on, because we're customer intimate, we said rather than taking people off the phone because AI is answering some of these questions, why don't we do outbound? Why don't we call our customers? Because no one does that. Hi,
shock.
How's Charlie getting on? What are you trying to sell me? Nothing. Just seeing how Charlie's getting on. And it would genuinely, it would really, especially in the first week or two, we'd call them cuddle calls. Give you a cuddle. Who doesn't like a cuddle? But yeah, that made a big difference, I think. It's just, again, customer experience, because people want that human contact. And there's certain generations in our society who really, they call the customer service team just to have a chat.
I know you said you're not focusing on LTV, but I think it's these small moments that you create that experience for the customer through their journey that's going to result in stickiness.
We definitely focus on LTV,
yeah.
No, 100%. But I think what people don't do is so for example, the example I gave today in the talk was, I've just started up a new business, like a breathwork business. Who are we call them super spreaders. So we assume everyone's the same customer, but you might be a really good super referrer.
Right.
So I go, right, I could pay 5 times for you because you're going to recruit 10 people for me. Right. But we don't pull that together. We treat everyone the same. So for example, with my breathwork, I went, let's go and speak to the local hairdressers. Because we forget, that you can make it simple. It doesn't have to be Instagram. You can just get local businesses. They still use the software. Here's a QR code. I'll take you to the booking stuff. But it's implementing the real world with the with technology. That's where the magic, I think, really happens.
And it's such an interesting point you make there about sort of treating every subscriber or customer the same. That has got to affect churn, and it's not just in communications, it's understanding your customer on such a granular level, and personalisation, whether it's for D2C or subscription, is going to be huge. Is that something that you've really worked to get right and get right fast?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the personas, the customers, like some customers just want the convenience. Some customers want an understanding nutrition. They need different messaging. So once you understand those kind of customers, then you can message them differently and show them the information they want to have. So somebody who's like, I'm just a busy mum, I've got 3 kids, I just want the box to arrive, I don't want to worry about it. That's a different message to somebody who goes, no, I've had a chronic disease myself. I really understand how important nutrition is. I'm really worried about my pet. I want to get into that for my pet as well. They need a different, so they might want to know where the provenance of the ingredients has come from. Grass-fed beef and all the stuff that we use, wild-caught salmon or herring oil. It's not farmed oil, salmon oil, for reasons that we explain. So there's all these things, but so we don't throw everything at everyone. We kind of tailor it to what that person really is motivated by.
That's extremely personalized, right? So you're looking to understand what that individual, not the dog, but the owner is going to pay the money, what they are looking for and how to address that. How do you maintain that and how does that scale?
Well, that's interesting because you've got 2 customers.
Right.
You got the pet and you got the pet parent.
Yeah.
And that is always the challenge. So, that feedback, collecting that data, what is it that, what made them come back via the emails back into the portal, all these things you want to track. Well, you want your system to track and maybe highlight on the data. I mean, we've got about, I think, 4 or 5 data engineers and people in our data alone because we've got that much data. But data is only useful if you use it.
Exactly.
and you understand it. And I used to love getting all the graphs, churn rates, how long they're going. And I love to see the darker blue, on the graphs. Go, oh, yes, it's going to be an easy board meeting, this one. And I also think you have to flip quickly. So sometimes a lot of these D2C businesses, subscription businesses, also have to think about retail at some point. So having that ability to bring in the real world retail along your subscription, I think is the natural. That's what we've done. We've gone with, some big pet food chains like Pets at Home. That was like the maturity of our business as we go omni-channel. Well, other businesses went retail first and then try to get into subscription. It's a very different business. One, I think if you start off with subscription, you really get to build that relationship. You can build communities, then go into retail. But a lot of these, they didn't do it, and they struggled to do it because it's a different type of approach. It's a different acquisition proposition and retention, even your team, to support them. AI will do so much, but I still think a call from one of the team going, "Hello, Mrs. Smith."
That human touch. It's interesting going into the store element. We've seen some subscription businesses who literally, as soon as they became available in Tesco's and Sainsbury's, they've stopped their subscription offering. And it is an interesting one because are you going to sort of lose customers that were really loyal for the sake of passing it over to just picking it up off a shelf? It's a completely different relationship. How do you, with this being your company that you've built, how do you deal with handing the product to a third party?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because and it's frozen, which makes it even more fun to deal with. So we've had to change a few things, but to be honest with you, not too much. The same products in the stores pretty much as it is online. I think the main difference is all the value add you get. So you get 24/7 vet, for example. Some people just love it for that. You get so many discounts on partners with us. You also get like discounts on all our treats and all the supplements and stuff. So we try and create as much value add by being direct. But some people in the middle of London have a small freezer. They can't fit more than 3 or 4 tubs in it, so you have why lose them just because of that? So that's it is a slightly different model, but it also actually reinforces the subscription. It feels real when you see our products in the shop. People feel proud. They're proud. Oh, Bella and Duke, that's what I get as well. So we've seen a real upside to it, and it's kind of, but I wouldn't have liked to have done it the other way around.
Yeah.
I think that would have been tougher.
And almost like an entry point. If they see it in store, pick it up, dog loves it, like their little limbs are better, their dandruff goes away, and then they could come to you and go, actually...
Is that the husband?
Can I get this shipped directly to me once every 30 days?
Yeah, exactly. And you don't have to think about it and stuff like that. And I think you want to reduce the friction points. And again, you know, DPD and all these other courier companies do amazing jobs, but sometimes just things happen. So just, you know, just have a policy that we replace it, goes, or we don't, or whatever it is, making it really clear, but based on the mission, the vision of the business and being customer centric. What are we happy just to do straight off the bat? What we're not. Just getting that clear for the whole team. One of the things I did at the very start, go back to, you asked me what, but we had these DNA days. And what they did is we invited people, the whole team, because we grew from 3 staff to 120 staff in the space of a very short period in lockdown. So I knew everyone's eyebrows, but nothing else. So the minute we opened up, we brought them in and we spent a day with each of the cohorts, and we called our head office Park Life. Like my office manager, she's a park ranger, looks after the wildlife and the visitors. But then we wanted some park rules, because to the point that if you build the culture from day one and get it really strong, but more importantly, get the whole team involved. So we asked them, what do you like about companies you worked in? What don't you like about companies you worked in? And we got them all the red things written on one board and all the green things on the other board. I kind of knew what they were going to write, but because they wrote it, when we wrote the park rules based on all that feedback, they owned it. So that means they police it, not me. So they make sure that the 10,000th staff member, as we grow, knows it inside out, because they all follow it.
And what an incredible goal to set yourself. just a small subscription business. Massive thank you to you, Mark, and to you, Shanti, for your insight both on the podcast and at SubscriptionX today. This series is available at InternetRetailing.net, on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. The series as a whole looks at how businesses can harness AI to streamline everything from their own operations to customer DIY products. We'll also be looking at how the publishing industry and its approach to subscriptions can help retailers. For now, though, thank you both, and thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.